Hi, I'm Tony Van Veen, CEO of Discmakers. So the independent music world has been buzzing about the rather stunning announcement that Bandcamp was recently sold to Epic Games. Now, if you don't know Bandcamp, it's the fiercely independent and much loved online record store where independent artists can directly sell their CDs, their vinyl, their t-shirts and downloads to fans, and then retain the vast majority of the revenues. Bandcamp announced recently that 82% of their revenues, sales revenues, go to artists and rights holders. The company was founded in 2008 and has grown quite large. Their lifetime revenues listed on their website are approaching $1 billion in payouts. And during the pandemic, when most artists lost their touring revenue because of the global shutdown, Bandcamp became even more of an indie darling with its Bandcamp Fridays, where one Friday a month it paid out 100% of sales revenues to its artists without taking a commission. And now, all of a sudden, in a shock to the system, Bandcamp is no longer independent. It's part of Epic Games, the huge gaming company that is most famous for the highly popular Fortnite game. So, why did Bandcamp sell? And what will happen next to the platform? There were no specific announcements by either company about the reasoning for the deal, but here are my thoughts. I met Bandcamp founder and CEO Ethan Diamond probably a decade ago when I visited them in San Francisco, and I really respect the way he has run the company. He was truly focused on doing what's right for the artist. And he was against doing partnerships or building out product lines or features that he didn't believe were good for artists, even if that meant slower revenue growth for Bandcamp. So you gotta respect a guy who thinks like that. Which gets me to the reason why I think Bandcamp sold to Epic. I don't have any inside information. But in the blog article announcing the acquisition, Ethan mentioned that he had been approached numerous times by potential buyers and he never pulled the trigger. In fact, he told me personally that he was not interested in selling. And therefore, I can only assume that the main reason that he sold Bandcamp was because Epic put such a crazy large number on the table that he just couldn't say no any longer. And honestly, can you blame him? Because despite the public outrage from every independent artist that Bandcamp sold out, I can assure you that if any one of the people who are so loudly complaining and lamenting that the Bandcamp sale went through, if any of them had gotten an offer, even a fraction of what Ethan got, they'd have sold in a heartbeat. Because, as they say, money talks, bullshit walks. But besides the money, there's other reasons to sell to Epic. I'm guessing that one of them was because Bandcamp needed help with its tech debt. As a company in its computer systems age, and remember Bandcamp's been around since 2008, it takes more and more resources to update and maintain its computer systems and code to continue to operate the company and the growing customer base that it has. And as a company adds new features and as markets change, maintaining old systems becomes really costly, which is why it's called tech debt. And there comes a point where companies have to rebuild all their operating software and systems anew on a new modern software platform that can take the company forward into the future. And this is very daunting, very resource intensive, and very expensive. In fact, I've personally lived this when Discmakers acquired CD Baby back in 2008. CD Baby's computer systems were ancient, and its e-commerce code was built in the days of selling CDs online. However, by the time that we bought CD Baby, the whole world had already shifted to buying downloads. But because of CD Baby's old code, the company's web store could only sell download albums and not download singles because the software was written in a time when an album was an album and couldn't be broken apart into singles the way happened with downloads. So we made a major investment in developing not just a whole new e-commerce store, but also all the company's computer systems, the CRM and ERP that ran the company's customer service, operations, and financials to allow CD Baby to be an efficient operator for the decade that followed. If you were a CD Baby client at that time, in 2009, you may remember it. Our changeover and launch was pretty bumpy, and we had a lot of complaints from customers who had like little issues here and there. But we put our heads down, we worked really hard, and in a couple of months, we put all of that behind us, and CD Baby continued to operate and grow and thrive. My assumption is that this tech debt for Bandcamp started looking rather daunting to them, and that Epic Games, with its robust e-commerce systems and big software programming team, would be able to provide significant resources to help Bandcamp overcome this hurdle. Then, in addition, there is the fact that Epic Games has been rather forward-thinking actually with regard to incorporating live music and music in general into its games. Fortnite has hosted a number of major concerts inside its game by artists like J Balvin and Ariana Grande and Travis Scott. What does the Bandcamp deal mean for live music on Fortnite? We know Bandcamp has built its own live streaming platform, and my guess is that there are notable opportunities to expand live streaming of concerts for indie artists to a much larger global audience. And then there are other possible synergies. Epic is a big player in the metaverse already, where it's really good at monetizing and cross-selling to gamers. What could these skills mean for Bandcamp? Can you say NFTs? Bandcamp has a large base of artists with digital assets, music, videos, images that can be turned into NFTs, and they already have a large-scale e-commerce platform. Epic has a big team of developers to figure out how to create and mint and sell and trade NFTs at scale. If they go down this road, and frankly, how could they not? It could be a real win for independent artists' ability to monetize their music to a greater extent down the road. So what happens next? Will we see all the critics cause a mass exodus of artists out of Bandcamp? I highly doubt it. I mean, where would they even go? Not to Amazon or to Spotify. Their music's already on those platforms, and they likely went to Bandcamp in part to reduce their reliance on those tech giants. Will Bandcamp's fiercely pro-indie ethos get corrupted? Will their service go to hell? Will they raise their commissions? These are all concerns I've heard and read online from people fearing that the purchase by Epic Games will spell the end of Bandcamp as we know it. And certainly, some of that could happen. And while some of those fears might eventually come at least partly true, right now, I'm frankly not that worried about it, as long as Ethan Diamond stays at the helm at Bandcamp as he said he would. Because I'm confident he'll continue to fight for the best interest of today's independent artists. So now that it's sold, should you leave Bandcamp or stay? To answer that question, let me tell you another quick anecdote. In 2006, Discmakers was sold to a private equity group in New York. After we announced this to our team, one of our printers, let's call him Mark, came to me and told me, "Tony, that's it. This is the beginning of the end. Things are going to go downhill from there. I'm going to clean up my resume. I'm going to put it out on the street. I'm going to look for another job." And I said to him, "Mark, why would you do that now? If you leave, you have to find a new employer. You're going to be the low man there. You're going to lose all the seniority that you've built up here over the years. Just stick around. Things will be fine. But if they do go to hell in a handbasket in the future, that's the time to start looking for another job." That was in 2006. Guess what? Mark still works for us today in 2022. The purchase of Bandcamp by Epic doesn't mean Bandcamp will fall apart. It's just too soon to tell, and it'll probably be okay. In fact, there may be a real upside to the deal for its artist clients. So for now, just keep selling on your Bandcamp page and keep an eye on what they're doing. If at some point you don't like it, you can always leave later. So what are your thoughts on this topic? If you're on Bandcamp, drop a comment below. Let me know how you feel about the acquisition and whether you'll stay or go. I hope you found this helpful. I look forward to seeing you next time.